Hi everyone, this is Rick, and today I'll be interviewing Johnny Dzubak, who is one of the hosts of The Art of Charm, a podcast that is helping you work on your soft skills so that you can become more charismatic and be a super connector. Now, usually I do a little bit more of an introduction, but today's episode is packed with great content. So let's get right into it. Hey Johnny, to start us off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself as well as your podcast, The Art of Charm?
Yes, well, first of all, thank you for having me on, Rick. And I love talking to young people about entrepreneurship. And I really enjoy talking to young people about life in general. That is why we had started The Art of Charm. There is a long-held belief that we feel that everybody, whoever is interested in developing tools for life, should be able to do that with no problem at all. And the Art of Charm was basically started as an opportunity to make sure that those ideas and those concepts went out into the world, and that if you were looking for them, you can find them. That it started out helping young men just get more confident socially to meet more ladies. And you want to hear something interesting. If there was going to be an online culture, an online community that bled into real life, what would be the first community to do that? Who would be the first community online but young introverted men trying to talk to girls? Of course, that would be the first online community that kind of bled it out into the streets. Now, with that, everyone was jumping on the scene, and we felt that we had a role in disseminating what was concepts and ideas that would actually help you and then get rid of all the harmful, toxic concepts and ideas that would hurt you. And over the years, our brand had grown up as we did to encompass self-development, social skills, mindsets that unlock your best. That's what the show and The Art of Charm has evolved in over 15 years. Now, to answer your question, how I got involved, I was a touring musician. The music industry had a reverence about it. If your favorite band was putting out a record, you waited 3 months for that thing to go on sale, and then you went to the mall, camped out early, just so you could get it that first day. You have to imagine, when you're a little kid, you hear all the racket in the basement, you hear the songs, you saw everyone coming to the house to get ready, to get dressed up in this ritualistic fashion, doing a little pre-gaming before they head out. That was an amazing thing to be a part of. And of course, I wanted to put myself in the center of that, seeing that growing up. But in the tail end of the 90s, and with the advent of the internet, that culture was rapidly changing. And in the 2000s, we didn't even have Facebook or Instagram or any of that. But I had saw what it was doing to the industry that I held in high regard. And it was changing so much that the role that I grew up wanting to have a part of in that industry was gone. All I knew was I needed a break from music because I had just dumped my whole life into that idea. And I felt the rug pulled out from under me. And I had to ask myself hard questions and had to be honest with myself with hard answers about things that I had never needed to think about. Do I want to continue in the music industry, one that doesn't exist in the form that I grew up wanting to be a part of? And so I turned to self-development as a way to be reflective and to learn about myself for the first time. And here in my late 20s, I found myself on shaky ground about who I was and who I wanted to become and what I wanted to be a part of. I had so much fun discovering who I was and implementing all these self-development ideas in my life, and saw such drastic changes in my well-being, performance, happiness, excitement, zest for life. I was so excited about that. I wanted to help other young men get excited about life as well. So I got a job in DC at a small self-development company where I go on weekends, chat with the young men, and fire them up about life. And I had met AJ and Jordan at that time, and they had started what at the time was called Pickup Podcast back in the day. We had met in DC while I was working, and we had decided to build a coaching company around the idea of giving value into the communities in the world around you rather than looking to take it. And we found a lot of the ideas and advice in the pickup community a bit toxic. We wanted to give young men things to look forward to and get excited about, and that just made them better people. Because if you're a better person, then you start commanding and dictating what the world looks like around you. Without those tools, your environment dictates who you are. That's a difficult concept and a switch that needs to be flipped.
And you talked about, being a musician and other experiences before starting your podcast. And when I was looking up your profile on the Art of Charm's website, you have the quote, "The stronger frame dissolves the weaker one." What does that mean?
All right. So this is a concept in our classrooms about how to bend reality for you to be able to take advantage of it rather than the environment taking advantage of you. And that takes strength in knowing who you are, where you've come from, where you're going, and the skills that you have developed around you to be able to bend that reality. At our core, we are herd animals. Now, there are social norms that dictate how you should behave in that herd. However, there is going to come a part in your life where you're going to need to separate yourself from the herd to achieve the things in life that you want to achieve. If you want to be an entrepreneur, then you have to be willing to step away from the herd to go after things that you want. A lot of the people in the herd animals are going to tell you that's not a good idea. That's not a safe thing for you to do. In fact, that's kind of crazy. You don't want to be doing that. You've separated yourself from the pack, which makes the other animals around you quite nervous. Because if you're a target and they're standing next to you, they might get hit, my friend. So they're going to tell you to chill out. So the frame dissolving the weaker one is to do everything in your power to strengthen who it is that you are. So you start influencing the herd rather than the herd influencing you. Because if you're going to step out on your own, you're going to need help. And by developing a strong frame, you will attract people to you. You'll attract the right people.
That's awesome. And so you guys have had amazing guests on your podcast. You've had more recently Jim McKelvey, Guy Raz. You've even interviewed Kobe Bryant last year. And I mean, Kobe is phenomenal, and maybe the Lakers will win the championship by the time this podcast is published. But how do you go about networking and finding all these people, especially if you're someone like me who's just starting to build my own network?
First of all, you have to look at it from the proper perspective that it's everyone that you get who you're excited about, that is fun. That's a little celebration. But you build that up by just putting yourself out there. When you're being an entrepreneur, you're constantly, you find yourself at your level of incompetence a lot, which means you end up doing things that you're not very good at because you're trying to pave your way, blaze your own trail. You're constantly beating yourself up. Now, when you get good, you can pay other people to handle things that you're not so good at. But when you're getting started or you're strapped for cash, you're always rising to your level of incompetence. For instance, I wanted to start doing some cross-promoting on Instagram. In fact, that's how we met. I've been looking at comparable and larger accounts, writing everybody 10 a day of, hey, I'm doing cross-promoting for Instagram. You want to jump on our Instagram Live on a Thursday and do a 20-minute session? And I've been getting the emails back. granted, a lot of the people that I wrote have not even bothered to look at the stupid thing that I sent. But a lot of our supporters jumped on quickly. I already have close to 2 months filled up. Even though we're this brand, we've been around forever. I've interviewed Kobe and Sugar Ray Leonard and David Goggins and Eric Wine. I've interviewed some of my fucking heroes that in the moment were my hero. Like when I met David Goggins and I was losing my mind, I was probably more nervous for that interview than I ever have, just because I was so into him and running at that time. Putting yourself out there and not getting results is just part of the process. And it eventually quits stinging after a while because you have so many other things going on. Because we have the podcast going on and because we have a new product called X Factor Accelerator, which is our mentorship program going on, we have a lot of wins going on. So it makes all the places where I'm sucking royally not be so bad. So you have to have a healthy balance of the things that you're doing well and the things you're not doing well. John Gottman says that we need 5 good interactions for every negative interaction. You see how unbalanced that is, how much heavier negative interactions and situations affect you than good ones? So you have to keep that in mind, and you got to stack the positives, no matter what they are, to keep that scale equal. Because if you just keep allowing the negative to pierce through your conscious brain, then that's all you're going to see. And it's difficult to function at a level of incompetence as you're learning things when you're just beating yourself up. This is why a lot of entrepreneurs tend to be a bit crazy. They tend to be a bit insane in their view of the world, because in order to be successful, you have to be crazy. You're not running the same way as other people. I mean, I can even tell by the energy in your face and you're smiling that you're already excited to be a bit crazy. You may already witnessed yourself being called a bit crazy. So that's a good thing, my friend.
That's awesome. And I was checking on your stats. You've published over 700 episodes, right?
Yeah.
So have you noticed anything in common between your guests, perhaps specifically the entrepreneurs, like whether it be their personality or traits?
Yes. The most successful people are very comfortable with the worst aspects of themselves and human behavior. In fact, they embrace the worst parts of themselves. Some of the guys even name it. So I believe it was Jesse Itzler. He names his worst aspect of himself Billy the Bully. So Billy the Bully is his negative self always talking crap to him. Brene Brown. Now, I have not had the opportunity to interview her yet. She's on the list. But Brene Brown names that voice the Gremlins. What are the Gremlins saying, right? The Gremlins are always talking negative and telling you can't do anything. So these people have an incredible relationship with the worst aspects of themselves. You have to be acquainted with it, or you'll be forever running from it. So that is a common theme that I see and when I say successful, I mean the people who always are smiling, who see the best in life, who are enjoying every aspect of it. I have clients who are CEO billionaires for major, ridiculous global corporations. They're not successful. They have all the money in the world. But I will be the first to tell you, they are not happy. Could you imagine being a billionaire and hating, just being nasty about life and yourself and just dealing with garbage that if you just took the time to work through some of these painful issues, you can use all that hate and all that anger to build a global billion-dollar corporation. That is good fuel. But if you don't get your head wrapped around it and integrate those worst aspects of yourself, that fuel will turn into a bomb.
So I would like to first jump to some questions that I got from my audience since we're a little bit low on time.
Okay, sure.
So the first question is, how do you go about networking or building relationships virtually?
You got to put yourself out there. And if you're putting yourself out there to people virtually, you got to let them know why you're reaching out to them in particular. I get pitches all the time. I know when people are not fans of the show and they're just sending me a pitch. They tell me you love my podcast, but don't mention anything about it, and you're a bad brand fit. It's like, well, I know you're just blanketing iTunes best educational podcast or whatever, however you might have found us. Listen, you can still copy and paste the email, but have something in there that shows why you're contacting them so it's personal. And show them how you can give value. If you like somebody, a content creator, and you want to get to know them, get a coffee with them, an interview, whatever. If you wrote me and said, hey, I love your podcast. I just rated and reviewed you guys. Here's a screenshot of it. I think you guys are just like that puts me now in the defensive, right? Your strong frame has made me reactive to you. And now I want to do you a solid.
Gotcha. I'll definitely try to use that when I contact other guests in the future.
Yeah. And also don't split up who's in your league and who isn't in your league. But know that, okay, here's my small people that I would love to talk to. Here's my super guests, right?
Right.
Hit them all and hit them all regularly. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. But if you're giving value, you have no reason why you can't reach out to people and show them how much you care.
That's awesome. So I would like to wrap our interview up with a series of rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So the first one, if you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Wow. I'll just go easy. I want to fly.
Gotcha. Yeah, a lot of people choose that too. What time do you usually wake up every morning?
6:30.
If you could have dinner with anyone, who would you choose? And I mean, you've obviously met a bunch of amazing guests already, but I don't know, what would you choose in this case?
You know, because I'm a musician, and Eddie Van Halen had just passed away. He was one of my heroes growing up. Mm-hmm. He's also when MTV came to my town. They were the videos that they were showing all the time, and I was a guitar player, and he changed the world for modern guitar playing. So I've been following his career closely. He's been a childhood hero. He's now passed away. So I have a million questions for him.
And so this is the last question. What is the best advice you've ever received?
Man, there's so much to that. The one piece of advice that sort of started it all for me. Somebody told me that my happiness was my problem, right? That was my responsibility. Now, I never heard that before in my life. And that happened when I was getting into my later 20s and I was unhappy with the way music was going, my place in the music industry, and I was getting frustrated. So that started a complete shift in how I was going on about my day.
Yeah. That's it for today's interview, Johnny. Thank you very much for taking the time to do this.
Rick, thank you very much. It's been an honor to chat with you and put some things together for lots of young folks who want to get after it.
Well, thank you, and I wish you the best of luck. Stay safe too.
All right.
I hope you liked this episode. If you want to see the latest previews, highlights, and takeaways from each interview, check out our Instagram. You can also listen to our podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. All the links will be in the description below. Finally, leave a comment if there's a particular industry, founder, or question you would like to see asked in our interviews. With that, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you next time.